what people don't understand, every one of them have $200 to $500 a month that could be going into their financial freedom plan, and they don't even know it.
Hello and welcome to the Neighborhood Money Podcast, a video podcast here to help you grow your financial knowledge and build a life you deserve. This week in the neighborhood, we have a little bit different of an episode. Actually, we get to welcome our good friend, Howard Dekkers, who's going to talk all about his financial freedom plan and what he has used over the course of his career to build financial independence.
I'm pretty excited to have Howard on for this week's episode. I know during our recordings of it, it was a very intriguing and good interview, and I hope we can continue to have a relationship with Howard because he is a very interesting, intriguing guy, very proven track record, so it was awesome chatting with him.
There's a lot of good information in there, but before we dive in, we've got to hit it with some trivia.
We have two this week, and we will start with the first one. On this date in 1946, what Christmas class starring Lionel Barrymore and James Stewart premiered in New York? And for the second question, we have, what is the total amount spent on unwanted Christmas gifts? Both very interesting questions, and I might have got the first name wrong in that first question, but
Close
let's
enough.
go with it.
All right, Drew, let's dive into the interview. Driving his RV into the neighborhood this week is none other than Howard Dekkers, a life and finance coach, serial entrepreneur, avid pickleball player and traveler, multimillionaire, and founder and CEO of the School of Success. Howard, super happy to have you here. How's it going, man? It's good that, for you to join Drew and me here in the neighborhood studio.
Hey, it's just life is amazing, guys. As you know, I'm a lot older than you guys. I busted my butt for many years and followed a plan. And today, I actually was retired for a while, but I was bored.
Okay.
So I came out of retirement, and now I'm just teaching people who are living paycheck to paycheck how to become financially free and do what I'm doing someday. So the neighborhood is amazing.
That's pretty awesome. It's kind of one thing Cav and I were talking about the other day when you were wanting to hop on this podcast is Cav and I have a passion for finance, but we are a little bit younger, and we were talking, the one thing we can't really pass on to people is like the time and the wisdom through age. So it's so great to have somebody that has multiple years in experience of being, in a job, being of your own businesses, being retired, coming back out, and really telling a long story, which is pretty awesome.
Right. And I love telling it because, I was just like you guys, young at one time and, shooting for going someplace. And I was a big goal setter, and I just worked at that passion. I worked all the time.
Yeah.
And then when you finally get there, you guys, and you really don't know where you're going to end, you're just going. And when you finally get there, it's incredible. It's like, I live in Boca Raton, Florida. That's my neighborhood. And I have a balcony right here. Every morning I walk out on my balcony, and I'm on the 9th floor. I have a penthouse where I live. And I actually do this every morning. I just look at the universe and I thank the universe. And then there's a big cross right across the street. Yep. And then, just so I don't offend God, I said, and you too, God. And I know this is your universe, but
I like
and
that.
it's like, it's incredible. And now this time of year, the weather for the next 7 months is heaven on earth as far as weather. It's incredible.
Well, Howard, you making it there has really allowed you to go traveling. And we were just talking a little bit about that before we recorded, but you just got back from basically traveling the country in an RV.
Right. Yeah. I was on a 3-month solo RV trip. It was actually my first solo.
Okay.
And it was incredible. It's when you go do something on your own. You're forced to get out of your comfort zone, and you're
Sure.
forced to, you meet a whole heck of a lot of people. And all of a sudden, you're just doing things with all new people. It was so incredible. I picked up a lot of students on the road, handing out my card,
Yeah.
and it's, it was just an incredible experience. I was in 15 different cities, 6 different states, and I spent about a week in every city. And I have a big RV,
Awesome.
and
Hmm.
I have my Harley and my Jeep, and I
Sure.
just go when I get to a new city. I get on my Harley and I drive through the city trying to find out where the local diners are, because I want to hang out where people are,
Sure.
and where the locals are. And it was just incredible. And I loved traveling by myself, but I got to say one thing. It would be nice to have a co-pilot that was
Sure.
into the same things that you had. So
Yep.
most people you'll find on the road are traveling with a spouse or
Mm.
whatever. But every
Yep.
once in a while you'll find alone, and we immediately bond. So
Sure. Yeah.
so
That's good.
it's
So,
cool. And my RV is set up as an office, so I can actually help students, while I'm on the road. They just book appointments with me, and I
yeah.
do whatever, we need to do with them.
Was the RV trip something you've always wanted to do, or was it just kind of just randomly just
Well,
saying, "Hey, I'm just gonna go for it"?
well, my mom and dad, um, my dad retired at 55. My dad was a tool and die worker in Detroit.
Okay.
He worked from 20 to 55 and retired.
Sure.
And he bought an RV, and him and my mom traveled the country. So I would drive out to meet them and, spend 4 or 5 days with them. And when I had my girlfriends, I'd go, and it was just
Yeah.
really neat. So when I got married, I have 2 children, a 19 and a 21-year-old now. When I got married, I immediately got an RV, and we did our family trips in an RV. And when kids are young, it's beautiful because
Hmm.
you've got your bathroom right there. You don't have to
Yeah.
pull over. They can. So I've been doing it for 30 years.
Oh wow.
Um, and I got divorced 6 years ago, and I sold my RV. And then I sold my company 3 years ago. No, I sold
Hmm.
my company 3 years ago when I got after the divorce.
Okay.
And then I was getting bored. So I figured my new
Sure.
plan is I'm going to build this financial freedom class, and
Sure.
I'm going to get another RV. And that's going to be part of my going out to meet the people. So that's what I'm doing.
Before we get into your actual financial course, let's talk a little bit about your background. You grew up like many Americans do. You grew up in a middle income family in the Midwest. Drew and I are from Minnesota, so
Yep.
heart of the Midwest. And like you said, you're a son to a factory worker who really had a profound impact on you. Your dad taught you some very key principles around money management and investing, many of principles that you hold today and continue to teach through your course. Can you tell us and tell our listeners, what some of those key principles are that really kickstarted your financial journey at such a young age? And if you've had any additional principles that you've picked up along your journey?
First of all, everybody needs to understand is I was born into a 2 bedroom house with 6 people living in it with 2 bedrooms. So mom, dad lived in Detroit, Michigan, literally in Detroit. And when I was 3, he moved me to us to the suburbs.
Okay.
And fortunately, where I lived, 2 streets over were where the wealthy people lived. So my dad started out below middle income.
Hmm.
Um, but my dad always had a principle, and he started teaching me it when I was in my teens. I didn't listen to him. But he said, son, you're going to start working. This is what I want you to do. I want you to save 10% of everything you earn. Okay. And that's about it. And so you got to
Yeah.
understand, my dad was a tool and die worker. he wasn't advanced in teaching me stuff, but he did show me what he was doing. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the first thing he told me is you have to save 10% of everything you earn. Now, my dad, just to tell you a little about that, my dad worked for Chrysler Corporation. He worked from 20 years old to 55. He worked for 35 years, and he never made more than $35,000 in a year. But he
Wow.
religiously would put 10% of his income into his financial freedom plan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Today, he has over $3 million in his financial freedom plan, and it's paying him $85,000 a year. So all he did is he religiously put 10% of everything he earned, which came
Mm-hmm.
out to about 120 grand over a lifetime, and it's worth actually $3 million today. So I didn't really listen to him at the beginning. However, because I lived in right next to a wealthy neighborhood, that's where all my friends live. And that's where I grew up, right in that wealthy neighborhood. I was always in that neighborhood. And
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that every one of my friends' dads, they had the big houses on the water. They all owned their own business.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew um, I wanted that lifestyle when I was a kid. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I always knew I was going to own my own business. But I really didn't pay attention to the 10%. So I did eventually go to college, graduated, started my first business at 28, and I started becoming successful. Then I had another business, then I had another business, and my income was going up in my 30s. And I was starting to make 200, 300, 400,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't saving anything.
Mm-hmm.
My mentality was I'm making all this money. It's always going to be coming in, even in my 30s.
Yep.
And then my wife kept saying, honey, we're not saving anything for the future. And I was always, well, that we're going to sell the business sometime in the future. Then I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking, what if I can't sell the business? Now, what was happening, I was no different than 78% of the people living paycheck to paycheck. I was making more money, but I was spending it all on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had a big home on the intercoastal in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Um, I had a lot of things. And so in my late 30s, I started listening to my dad, and I set up an automatic financial freedom plan that would take money from here and
Mm-hmm.
put it into my financial freedom plan, which is in a brokerage. I'd invested into index funds that averaged 10%. And before I know it, I had over $1 million just in that fund.
Yeah.
And so the lesson learned, had I started that when I was 20, oh my God, it would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. How did you go from, living pretty luxurious with this pretty high income and then, basically lifestyle creep, right? As you made more income, your expenses continue to grow with it. How did you really change your frame of mind and start putting away that 10% each and every time you got paid?
Well, I knew I could do it because I was
Mm-hmm.
making enough income. I knew I could do it. So I just would set it up, and I would take, 5,000 a month and throw it over here. Now you've got to remember I was making more money that back here now.
Yep.
And I can remember so many times the key, no matter how much money somebody makes, is they have to set up an environment of economic scarcity in the household. You got to make yourself feel that you're broke at the end of every
Mm-hmm.
month. And the way you do that is you take it out of your checkbook and you put it into your financial freedom plan as a certain amount, whatever you can afford.
Yep.
And I just got smarter. I quit spending as much money on stuff, and I no longer had the Corvettes. I got rid of all the fancy stuff. I've
Sure.
had a Jeep for probably 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad always instilled in me never pay more than $50,000 a year for a car. It's kind of hard today. A Jeep is now like
Yeah.
$55,000 a year.
True.
I the Mercedes, no way. I mean, I had Corvettes, but I got rid of that stuff, and I just freed up enough money so that I could now see my financial freedom plan growing. And I'm telling you, when all of a sudden you see it growing, it's pretty exciting. And just most people, 78% of us are living paycheck to paycheck like I was. And they're accumulating stuff. I don't care if they're making 30 grand a year, 50 grand a year, 75 grand a year, or 100 grand a year.
Yep.
They're spending it. And when every one of us are going to be 30, well, no, 70, I think it's 75% of us are going to reach age 65. Okay. So 75% of us are going to be 30 one day. We're going to be 40 one day, 50 one day, and 60 one day.
Mm-hmm.
We're either going to have a lot of stuff that isn't worth a whole hell of a lot, or we're going to have a financial freedom plan. And I chose a financial freedom plan. And, I'm trying to help as many people as I can make that same choice, to the point I actually help them set it up.
Let's talk a little bit about where you are now. You've obviously done very well for yourself. Your net worth is in the multi-millions. And now that you've built wealth, you can enjoy it, going on trips in your RV and things like that. But after building wealth, now that you've gotten there, how do you manage that wealth? How do you begin to live off of it? And, more importantly, how do you preserve it and continue to grow it?
See, it's funny because I'm semi-retired now, but when you retire and you have money, you still have a job. Your job is managing the money so that you don't lose it. Okay. Because if you lose it at 60 or 65, you're in a world of hurt, because you don't really want to start the projection all over again.
Right.
So the nice thing about accumulating wealth and accumulating money is it opens up other worlds to invest your money in. I've invested in the real estate as well as the market, the stock market.
As rental units or
I actually
like single family?
3 Walgreens properties.
Okay.
And Walgreens is my tenant. Walgreens doesn't own any of their properties.
Yeah.
They build it, and then they find people that have some money to buy them out.
Yeah.
It's an amazing program where you cash flow. I make enough money from my 3 Walgreens to live the lifestyle that I want. And all of my money in the market, which is substantial, and this is what I love, it's thrown off dividends, and it's still reinvesting into more stocks. Like, I've got a lot of index funds. I have, a lot of Apple, Tesla, the Amazons, the Googles, whatever. I don't have Google. But the nice thing is the real estate has allowed me to not even have to touch that. Now, at some point, I'll be able to touch it and get a nice income out of it, but I don't need it. I'm too young right now. I mean, I could take it. I'm old enough to take it, but I'm too young. I don't need it. I'm making enough money from my real estate. I also have self-storage units. I'm an investor in one of them, and that's throwing off a little bit of cash.
So when you started investing, so say this real estate, sounds like commercial real estate where you wanted to go, and sometimes they say like a niche will make you rich. Have you really focused on like commercial real estate, probably like it sounded like a triple net lease type of investor in a certain, is it like a certain area, like just the Midwest or?
No, one thing you guys need to understand, I'm an expert in teaching people how to become financially free through a financial freedom plan.
Sure.
The real estate found me.
Gotcha.
I had a friend who used to be a wealth advisor. He was getting all his clients into a Walgreens program. He met the owners, and now he's one of the owners.
Gotcha.
So this friend came to me and said, this is what I'm doing. And it made sense to me. 3 Walgreens, 25,000 a month cash flow, which is pretty darn good.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not an expert at any of that stuff. I always loved self-storage units,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a chance to invest in one, and I invested in it. So I would have never been able to do that stuff had I
Mm-hmm.
not had a program.
Gotcha.
I sold my last company. I did well with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I needed more than what I did with that company to buy these Walgreens. So I
Yeah.
was able to tap in to sell some of my stocks, use some of that to kind of like expand a little bit so that all my income wasn't coming in one source. Now, if
Gotcha.
I hadn't bought the Walgreens, I could have started taking 4% of everything I have and had a nice income coming in. But
Mm-hmm.
I've chosen not to do that. I've chosen to let that continue to ride, let it continue to buy more stocks, more index funds,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to grow tremendously I got another 20, 30 years in front of me of
Yeah,
growth.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that you didn't start till your late 30s, right? And you've done very well over the last 20 or so years. And that's really all attributed to your financial plan that you teach in your School of Success. So your School of Success is your online financial freedom course that walks people through a step-by-step process to building financial freedom and developing that plan. But one thing I really love about your course and really the story about this journey of yours is that it really all started with a presentation to your two kids and a group of
Uh,
their friends right in your own neighborhood. Can you tell us that
yeah,
story?
yeah, it's a great story. I sold my last company 3 years ago, and all of a sudden, I didn't have to work, and it was like, wow, this is cool. But it was boring as hell. I mean, it was like I no longer, my whole life I had this dream. I always was working towards a goal, and the goal was to sell my business someday. That was my goal. And all of a sudden I was there. So I'm bored out of my tree to the point of getting depressed. It was like, so one day coronavirus hit a while back ago, and I figured I'm
What's
good at,
that?
yeah, I'm good at, yeah, just ask New York what that is. I couldn't imagine living in New York right now. And that's why I love Florida. We got the best governor on the planet. No masks, no nothing.
Yeah.
And so, where was I?
That teaching your kids with presentation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, out of a little bit of boredom, I figured I'm going to put a PowerPoint presentation to teach my, I think there were 16 and 17 or 17 and 18 at the time. I was going to teach them how to become multimillionaires sometime in their life. And so I put
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful PowerPoint presentation together. And then I told my kids before I showed it to them, I want you to go to your friends and I want you to tell them that your dad, who's a multimillionaire, is going to teach them how to become a millionaire. And so 10 friends showed up. So we're in my living room over here in front of the big screen TV. And I did my very first presentation. And it blew them away. But what blew me
Sure.
away even more is they knew nothing what I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe, and some of these kids were in their 20s. And I really believe we live in a capitalistic society. We should be taught this stuff in 12th grade. We should be taught how money grows, and
Yep.
we should be taught the concepts that I'm teaching
Mm-hmm.
in 12th grade or high school, or college. And so then I went to all my sister's kids, and they're in their 30s, 40s. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. I love it, Uncle Howard. And then all of a sudden, it was like a light bulb went off. And it was like, oh my God, I have passion for this. I know this. I'm good
Yep.
at this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put a course together, and I'm going to teach a simple course. People who hate finances, I'm
Yep.
going to keep it simple, and I'm going to show them how to become financially free with a normal job. So I've been doing it for, I actually got the course online done maybe 6 months ago.
Okay.
And I love it because now, my course, I haven't, I'm not doing this to make another $1 million. Okay. I'm doing this because it's my way to pay it forward. It's my way to give back. And my course is only $97, and I priced it at $97 because anybody who has a job can afford $97.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll go through my course, and when they're done with my course, their financial freedom plan will be set up and running on autopilot. And
Mm-hmm.
if they have any questions or they have a problem setting their plan up, all they got to do is go to the membership page, click a link, and they'll be able to set a Zoom link with me. And I'll
Okay.
actually spend 15 minutes, a half hour, a couple, 3, 4, as many times as they need it, and
Yep.
help them. And when their financial freedom plan is set up for the first time ever, it's
Yeah.
like, yes, they're
Yeah.
they're
Yep.
so excited because for the first time in their life, they're not afraid of finances. So it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Is part of this program of yours talking? I know you sounds like you brought up 4% earlier, so I know there's like a 4% withdrawal rule sometimes that people talk about. Is that withdrawal of your money part of your plan?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I mean, when they get there, I mean,
Yep.
they really don't have to worry
Yeah.
about that for 20, 30
Sure.
years or
Right,
whatever.
right. There's a lot of courses out there, but I think, the two things that really stuck out to me about, the School of Success are two key things that you have within your course, two key topics, and that's being mindful with your money, and then also just the simplicity of your financial freedom plan. Can you tell us, a little bit more about each of those two things?
Yes. First of all, I understand that the majority of the people don't have a financial plan because they don't know
Mhm.
where to start.
Sure.
And finances are not easy. I
Yeah.
don't have anything to do. I don't teach puts. I don't teach calls. I don't teach options. I teach one thing. We're going to take this much money each month, whether it's starting out at $10 a month, $50 a month, or $100. And I'll help them figure that out. We're
Mhm.
going to take it out so you don't spend it. We're going to put it into a brokerage account that I'm going to help you open that you own. Nobody makes money off of you on it. And then it's going to invest in index funds. So that's the first thing. But another thing I'm going to teach them is budgeting. I've developed a one-page budget, but before you can get control of your money, you need to see how much is coming in and how much is going out. I have a one-page plug and play Excel spreadsheet budget that anybody, even if they haven't used the spreadsheet, can learn in an hour. It's pretty easy. And then my second module, we start manipulating it, and I show people how they can actually adjust their lifestyle up or down. And then I show them how they can actually use their budget to get a raise from their boss, or they can use their budget to upgrade their lifestyle. So, one of the most important modules is money mindfulness, what you were just talking about. What people don't understand, every one of them have $200 to $500 a month that could be going into their financial freedom plan, and they don't even know it. And this is how that works. We have a habit of just doing things, and we don't think of how much it adds up to. And here's a perfect example. Starbucks, one of the most successful companies on the planet today. College students, almost all of them, they go to Starbucks 4 or 5 times a week on their way to school. They're spending $5 every time. So let's say they're going 4 times a week. They're not thinking, I'm spending $5 each time. That's $100 a month. So what I'm challenging them now is I'm saying, look, this is what I want you to do. I don't want to take away your Starbucks because I know you love it. But what I want you to do, instead of going 4 times a week, I want you to go twice a week. So instead of giving Starbucks $100 a month, you're only going to give them 50. And then we're going to set that other $50 to automatically come out of your checkbook, go into your financial freedom plan, and invest in index funds that earn 10%. In 30 years, it'll be worth $113,000. That $50 a month that you were given to Starbucks. Another big one is the car.
Yep.
I've had so many people go through my class that have $500, $600, $700, $800 a month car payments. Why? Because they can't.
Yeah.
I can afford it. So I'm going to give you an example of a person who has a $650 car payment. What I want you to do is sell that car. I don't care how much you like it, sell it. I want you to buy another car for $325 a month. Instead of giving $650 a month to the bank, I want you to give them $325 to pay for that new car. And I want to take this other $325 and I want to set it up so it automatically goes into your financial freedom plan. In 30 years, you'll have over $700,000 with that $325. You add that to Starbucks, I just found you like $820,000 that you will have 30 years. And then I go through a bunch of those. So the point is, every single person who has a job can one day be financially free. It's not hard. I show them how to do it. And it's really quite simple, you guys. And it's set up one time. And then let's say a person says, okay, I want to do 100 a month. We'll set it up and it's always going to be working every month. But let's say all of a sudden, oh, I don't think I can pay 100 a month. You just go in and you pause it. You pause it. And then you set it back on autopilot with another click of a button. What I like to try to get people to do is at least 500 a month. And the way they'll do it is by doing what I was just talking about, being money mindful. Because if they will put $500 a month in there for 30 years, they'll have close to $3 million. Or what is the number? Hold on. If 500 a month, in 30 years, they'll have $1.1 million. In 40 years, at 500 a month into a Roth IRA, they'll have $3,200,000. So I like to try to get them to believe that they can do 500 a month. And the way they believe it, I'm going to show them how. So
gotcha. If the 9 to 5 employee comes and does this plan, is this supplemental to if they have a 401k plan, or is it we'll take a little bit from what you were putting in your 401k and we want to move it over to this plan?
It depends on the 401k. If the 401k matches, it's always the no-brainer.
Yeah.
I like people to always invest in a 401k up to the match.
Yep.
I'd say don't invest beyond the match because you really can't control what they're doing. And then take the rest and put it in your Roth IRA, because even if you're in a 401k, you can still put $500 a month into a Roth. So that's what I mean. A 401k is the best thing out there, simply because day one, you made 100% on your money. You put in 500 or you put in 100 from your paycheck, your company matches it. You just made 100% on your money. That's big.
When you're saying the 500 a month, that seems like it comes out to about that 6,000, the max for the Roth IRA. So if is it just constantly just wanting to max out your IRA? So if that cap continues to grow throughout the years with legislation or whatever, it's just always trying to max out that IRA. Is that part of that plan?
Right. And I think today young people should be in a Roth IRA before an IRA.
Sure.
I have a lot of money in an IRA because the Roth IRA didn't exist. And my God, I wish it would have existed. Because it's so much better. I mean, the government can't wait till I turn 72 because I got to
Right.
start taking money out of it so that I have to
Yep.
pay them. A Roth
Yep.
IRA, you never
That's
have to
yours.
take it out if you don't want
Yep.
to. And the government gets goose eggs. And
Right.
we
Once it's
know
in there.
how well
Yep.
the government spends our money.
Well, Howard, I think, your school of success, it's pretty awesome that you don't tell people you have to completely eliminate things out of your life. Like you were saying,
Mhm.
the fact that, just decrease your Starbucks by 2 days and then invest that difference, or, don't completely just drive a beater car, but just drive a
Mhm.
car that's half as nice. I think that's a really, really powerful way to get people
Yeah.
on board and into, building financial freedom and developing that plan. But Howard, there's a lot of sacrifices too when you are trying to build wealth. But we all have that one thing that we are guilty of spending our money on while on our path to financial freedom. Mine personally would be video games, but we were wondering, what is your guilty pleasure or your financial vice that you have always spent your money on over your journey towards financial independence?
Well, I spent a lot of money on an RV. I mean, I have an RV,
Yeah.
I have a Harley. Yeah, I don't need either one of them,
Mhm.
but I'm looking at the RV as an extension of my Howard Dekkers School of Success business.
Yep.
Sure.
It's a great story to go on the road in an RV and do what you want and help people. I love going to small towns and I went to a Waffle House. I hadn't been to a Waffle House. I used to go to Waffle House all the time when I was in college, and I loved it. I'd go at 2 a.m. after I got off work, and I'd have steak and eggs. So I can't remember where I was. I was in South Carolina. I go to a Waffle House, and I'm sitting at the counter, and I'm getting entertained because they cooked the food right in front of you. It was really cool. And 2 seats down, there was a young guy, and we started talking, and then he told me he had just gotten married and he just bought a house, and and he was trying to make it work financially. And then he asked me what I did, and I told him. He said, "Really?" And we ended up going out in the parking lot. I gave him my business card. I got a pretty cool business card that I hand out to everybody. I don't have it here. And it has the QR code where all they got to do is take a picture. And I said,
Yep.
I told him about it, and I told him it's only $97. And he said, "Oh my God, I need your course so badly." And he took my course. And so I just meet people like that in small towns. And,
Mhm.
um, you know, whenever I go to a restaurant, I put my card with my bill and I tell people, if you want to learn how to become financially free, check my webpage out. Um, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Amazon is another one. Damn,
Amazon.
Amazon. And Amazon's hurting a lot of people. Now it's hurting me, but to me, I can get away with it because I've already, I'm there.
You
But
know, my wife might not be extremely happy that I'll bring this up on this recording, but uh, I've started a little group message with some college buddies, and I have a little almost like a meme that says it's been 0 days since a package is been received at her house. So I'm constantly on her like, you stop ordering from Amazon, and then so every day I go, I see a package, I take a picture of it, send it to my college buddies, and have that little meme attached to it. So it's been kind of a little funny.
I know. And remember when I said I was bored the first year of retirement?
Yep.
I had 1 or 2 Amazon packages showing up, it seemed like every day. And I wouldn't remember what I had bought. It was like, and it'd be at the front counter and they'd give it to me. And I says, "Oh, what'd you buy me?" Because I couldn't remember. I was like, that was bad.
Yep. It's too easy to buy off of there.
Yeah.
Well, Howard, this has been a whole lot of fun having you join us here in the neighborhood. But we do have one last question for you before we let you go. So, Drew and I, each and every week, share what's going on in our neighborhood, really for our listeners to get to know us a little bit better. So, Howard, with that, what's going on over in your neighborhood? Where can people look you up and see what you're up to?
Okay. Well, first of all, to get information on the course, just go to howarddekkers.com. That's Howard Dekkers, Dekkers.com. I post a lot on Instagram. It's Howard Dekkers, not hard. Facebook, Howard Dekkers. But as far as my neighborhood here in Boca Raton, Florida, as I said, I lived up in Michigan a big part of my life. I moved down here 25 years ago. Florida is amazing. My neighborhood is incredible. The next 7 months, it's heaven on earth.
No snow.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend that lives in Michigan. So I go up there and she comes down, a couple times a month. And oh my God, Michigan's so cold. And so is Minnesota, I'm sure. Down here, when she comes down here, she just, Howard, I want to move. I want to move down here. I want to move. And I said, hey, that's the plan. We're giving it a year. And then, if it works, and she's going to be the co-pilot in our venture.
Perfect.
So my neighborhood is absolutely amazing. Florida, incredible.
That's awesome. Well, Howard, it's been so fun to have you on the podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Hey, you guys, it was great. And, I really enjoyed it. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk about what I'm doing.
What a great conversation, Drew, that we just had with Howard. But, we talked about a lot of different things, but what would you say is one of the main takeaways you took out of our conversation with him?
Well, one of the key takeaways for me is pretty much his financial plan that he has you don't have to necessarily own a business to retire and retire the way you'd want to. He can lay out the way, if you're starting at 20 years old, 30, 40, 50 years old even, and find a way to retire a millionaire. So I think that's a really cool takeaway from this episode, that if you are just working a 9-to-5 job and have a 401k, or don't have a 401k, you can still retire the way that you would like.
Yeah, I really like the fact that he kind of just automates his whole process. And actually what I took out of the conversation was what he called money mindfulness. So, you hear some of the experts say, stop going to Starbucks, decrease your expenses, but he takes a slightly different approach where he says, yes, you can't go to Starbucks 5 days of the week, but just go twice and invest the difference. Just be mindful of what money you're spending. He brought up the whole idea of a $650 a month car. He says, sell the car and then buy yourself a $325 car per month, and then invest the difference. And I think that's just so powerful, because you're not depriving yourself of the things that you enjoy. You're just decreasing the amount of money that you're actually spending, and then actually just automating that into your financial freedom plan.
That is a very awesome point. He can find a way of, you're looking at your money that's going in and out, and you just find money that you're already spending and just finding a way to be more useful with it. And it kind of reminds me of, our earlier budgeting episode, how, part of our thought process is you can't be super, super strict on your budget, because then you'll never stick with it. So there's a couple of that little bit of room in your budget that you almost want to leave for yourself, where it's almost like you can treat yourself, like we've said. And that's kind of that. You can still go to Starbucks, just don't do it 5 days a week. Do it maybe 2.
Enjoy the life that you're living, but also be very cognizant of being able to invest for the future so that you can retire financially free.
Okay, now on to the trivia here, Cav. I think I'll go up and read the questions if you want to answer them.
Let's do it.
So for our first trivia question, we have, on this date in 1946, what Christmas classic starring Lionel Barrymore and James Stewart premiered in New York.
I actually, Drew, I think this last week I was just talking to my mom and sister about this movie, and I've never seen it, but I'm pretty sure they said it's one of their favorites. But the answer is It's a Wonderful Life.
I just watched it for the first time last week because I remember everybody saying it's such a classic and you got to watch it. And I thought it was pretty good. My wife said she hates old time movies, so she wasn't a big fan of it.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good. And it's kind of funny hearing like that. I don't know how, like what decade that's supposed to be from, but it's always like, hey, how you doing there, lady?
Yeah.
Like that kind of announcer talk, so it's all pretty funny.
Right.
All right, and then for the second trivia question we have, what is the total amount spent on unwanted Christmas gifts?
This one is by far way more than I would have ever estimated, but it comes in, the total amount of Christmas gifts that are not wanted and are returned comes in at a whopping $15.2 billion.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, and as I'm reading that and hearing that number, I'm wondering, where do they get a number like that?
Yeah,
Just reach out to like every business and say what ones were returned or which ones people didn't actually want or something. It's kind of funny how they come up with the number, but they do, and that is a very, very big number.
Absolutely.
For just one holiday during the year.
Right. So Drew, why don't we wrap up this episode with what's going on in each of our neighborhoods? So what's going on over in your place?
Not a whole lot this week. A little bit more quiet, which is always good. But I did make some bread and I made some creme brulee. So I always like to do a little something cooking in the kitchen. That kind of is one of the hobbies I like to do. And now that the kitchen's all finished up, the baby's kind of has his little nap times every once in a while, so I can actually get up and do a little bit of cooking, and it felt nice cooking something from scratch for one of the first times in the new kitchen.
Sweet. You had to break it in.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have one of the creme brulees after this podcast too.
That's not bad. That's not a bad way to end the day.
Not too shabby. A little bit of extra sugar before I go to bed.
There you go.
Or go on the rest of the day.
Right.
Either or.
Right.
How about you? Anything good going on in your neighborhood?
Yeah, so we actually got our first snowstorm here in the Twin Cities, and I think it came in like roughly around 12 inches, but that's not the story. So I forget what night it was. I think it was Friday or Saturday, doesn't matter, but this weekend, and we had my family over, just hanging out, enjoying company and having some drinks, and we got just dumped on, right? But my brother and his fiance had to actually leave, and my sister as well had to leave to go back to my brother's place for the evening, but they were snowed in. And so I had the great opportunity then to whip out our snowblower for the first time at about midnight and just blow him out. And me and my brother, you should have just seen us. It was almost like we were just two young kids again at Christmas time, just having a blast, blowing, 11 inches worth of snow, shoveling, just giggling. It was just
a couple of dudes shoveling snow.
Just a couple of dudes.
That's pretty good. Well, it's good that you guys were giggling and stuff like that. I know when we just had a snowfall like that a week before, we had, I think, is about 12 inches or so. So about the same as you guys. And I went out and I didn't do a snowblower, just hand shoveling. And I went out to try to keep up on it. And I went out like 4 or 5 times. And during that like 5th one, I was like, oh, is this going to end? And then the next morning, the snow drifts came over so that you got to shovel again. And I was like, oh, any little sprinkling after that, I was just telling myself, I'm just going to let it melt. I don't want to go out and shovel it again.
Well,
it's not good to have that feeling this early on in the winter.
To be fully transparent, we only did snow blow and shovel out just enough so he could back out of the car or out of the driveway. And then I did the rest of the next day. But still.
You didn't throw him in the snow and give him like a whitewash or anything?
No comment.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad everything was good with your snowblower, I guess. And you guys finally have snow. But I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode. I want to thank Howard again for coming on to this episode. We had a chance to chat with him a little bit after the recording and get to know him a little bit better. And, there's a lot about Howard, and he has quite the proven track record. And if it was something that you guys may want to try out with his course, you can go on his howarddekkers.com. If you guys enjoyed this episode and that we were able to provide value, we'd love for you to come over to the Neighborhood Money Podcast, YouTube, or any socials, and follow and like, subscribe with our accounts. And with all that said, we want to thank you guys again, and we'll see you next week in the neighborhood.